Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a Thunder and Lightning episode. And in this episode, we've welcomed back Andrew and Mary Ann. They were on a previous episode talking about their journey home to the Latin Mass. Today's episode, they're going to talk about being Catholic homeschool parents and how they got to this point and what that entails and the benefits that that's brought to their life and their children's lives and their families. So, Andrew and Mary Ann, can you tell us about how, you're in this homeschooling ball game now? How did you get to that point?
Well, I think when we first were dating, we talked about the fact that we would like to homeschool. I had a brother and his wife who homeschooled, and their kids were older, and they did really well, and just saw some neat dynamics about being able to homeschool. So I had been a teacher, so that helped in some ways, but not so much in other ways. And so after we had our oldest child got to kindergarten age, and we had the choice of public school, a local Catholic school, or to homeschool.
Yeah.
And I was kind of getting cold feet, so I said, let's maybe do Catholic school. And then, then we changed our mind. I'm not sure how Catholic the Catholic school is, so let's just do this first year and just see where it takes us.
Yeah.
So we had other friends who had already been doing it a year or two, and they were able to give me some insights into where to order materials for that you can use for Catholic homeschooling. Yeah. And at that point we jumped in, always saying we'll take this a year at a time because life happens and situations may change. So.
Well, I think the Catholicity part was a big deal.
That was the main principle there. Yeah.
Right. And that's what one of the game changers was looking at the local parish or the parish school. Mm-hmm. It wasn't very Catholic.
Okay.
So that was a big tipping point. And like she said, we take it year by year, and we looked at various programs or public school option. Yeah. And since we were both public schooled ourselves, and the education part of it's fine. It's just there's a lot of negative social influence.
Yeah. And you were in public school,
right?
And it's a lot different today than it is when we were younger.
And I had been teaching. I had taught right up to the birth of our first son, so I knew kind of the current situation.
And I had done substitute teaching as well, so I fairly recently, before being married.
Yeah.
And so I saw a lot of what was going on in the schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at this point we're in our 10th year homeschooling.
Okay, 10 years in.
We have 6 kids altogether, but 5 are full on homeschooling this year, and so.
How did that? So you mentioned you had trepidation at the beginning, but you talked to some other families, and what what was the message that they conveyed to you, and how did that change? Your outlook or your confidence?
Sure. Well, once you have all the information, like each state, requires different things.
Okay.
So once I knew all that, and then I knew where I could get curriculum, and then I knew that in our state, there's certain requirements, but beyond that, you can structure things how you want to, and you can use whatever materials you want to accomplish. There are definitely certain core subjects you need to do. So once I had all the facts, I thought, we can definitely do this. Once we got through that first year.
And I think everybody we talked to was very encouraging too. It's like, God will provide, God will assist you in your vocation as parents.
Yeah.
And that I did quit my job after to stay home. So that had been something even before our oldest started school. We had to really make some sacrifices and be very purposeful.
Did you quit as soon as your first was born, or before, or where after? How did that work?
I was a teacher, and I initially took sabbatical.
Okay.
And then I renewed my sabbatical, which was a nice perk with being a teacher. And then during that renewal, we got pregnant with the second child. So I looked at
perpetual renewal.
Yeah, I looked at maybe taking another type of position that was more training, but once I looked at the budget, I'm like, well, if I'm paying for childcare and I'm doing this, we're not going to really get a whole lot more. So if we just use the resources from his job and to the best of our ability, then we can make this happen. You know, and it's not like walk in the park. It's like you have to be very purposeful in how you budget, and you can make it happen. And because we felt very strongly that the mothers to be raising the children with with the father's help and provision. So the other nice thing with homeschooling was that at that time in the town where we lived, there was a handful of other Catholic homeschoolers with young kids also. So then we got together and did things. We did like a children's adoration time. We would go and pray the Stations of the Cross. We would get together and do Christmas pageant, the nativity story. Would pray rosaries together and share a meal. So just the camaraderie and the shared faith was important.
Yeah, in my hometown where I live now, there's a homeschooling Catholic group.
Okay.
And I don't know how many of those people attend the old Mass. A small number do. They're mostly new Mass people, but they're very faithful.
Yes.
And that community has helped them out tremendously.
Definitely.
That they have these co-op days, they go to adoration, play days, go visit museums together and that kind of thing. And I think that's something that helps people overcome, to realize that you're not locked up in a monastery with your kids. There's things with other parents and help and resources and whatnot.
I think that was something that people were questioning us on, or probably still do. It's what about the socialization?
That's a great question because a lot of people.
I actually was going to ask.
A lot of people think that if you're homeschooling, your kids are like Little House on the Prairie, and they're scared of strangers, and everybody's.
There's some of that. No,
everybody's weird.
And they say once the kids turn 18, they're going to go nuts.
They're going to be crazy.
And
they're going to have green hair and be covered with tattoos.
Well, I think that can be a possibility. So how do you address that? And
how do you not keep them sheltered so much?
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I think, homeschooling provides a flexibility. What I noticed, the nice thing with my kids that I sometimes see lacking in public school kids is public school kids are with the same age all day. So they're really good connecting and making friends with those same age peers.
Yeah.
Whereas my kids can talk to littler kids and be interactive with littler kids, can talk to teenagers, can talk to adults. Because they're not with the same age all the time. They're with people of all ages. They can talk to elderly people and not be afraid. So it's and we go out. We're not in our home all the time. We definitely do book lessons like you would in school, but we're going out and we're learning out in the field, field trips, volunteer things.
Yeah, I mentioned before the show came on that I've actually seen you two. I went to Pittsburgh for the Catholic Identity Conference. Yeah, Bishop Schneider's there for this pontifical at Precious Blood Parish. Well, I see you there. And then I go to D.C. for Archbishop Samples there for this pontifical, and I see you there. And it's at this point where if I were to bump into you, and you said you had seen Cardinal Burke, was that
in Steubenville?
In Steubenville. If you go to some extravaganza, you're probably going to see Andrew and Marianne, this liturgical extravaganza, because you're free with the homeschooling to take your school on the road, do your lessons, whatever. And that.
Yeah, it's definitely a perk. You can take a day and do that. And most of those masses, there was an element of a conference or a talk.
Yeah.
And, I had some kids listening to Cardinal Burke, and we had kids listening to Archbishop Schneider.
Yeah, who else would you rather your kids be listening to? On-site instruction from Cardinal
and
Burke.
The kids are older now, so on occasion we're reading things that Archbishop Schneider wrote, or listening to Taylor Marshall, and then they meet them in person at these places.
Cool.
So so homeschooling is you're out in the field learning. You're not only in the school, and so to that there's we're taking, I think, more field trips or more outside experiences sometimes than a normal public school child would.
Oh yeah.
And then they might even be able to pick up a little side job of mowing mowing somebody's grass for an hour during the day.
Yeah. That's something that you can start a business. There was a kid in my town where I live now that he started a business in high school, cutting grass and shoveling snow or whatever. So you got the socialization angle. You have the availability to get out there and socialize angle. What about the academic angle? Do you think your kids are as well or better educated than their equivalents in the Catholic school or the public school, not only in terms of academics, but then in a spiritual formation as well?
Sure.
What do you think about? What's your comments on that?
Well, academically, the kids do still need to take, like in our state, kids have to take standardized tests at certain grade levels, which my kids do also.
Yeah.
They don't have to take the exact same tests that the public school kids take, but we've been on track that way. In our state, we have to submit at the end of each year paperwork to the school district that either, like in my case, because I am a certified teacher, I can just submit it, but other homeschoolers who don't have a certification have to have a certified teacher look over their materials. So someone is like keeping an accountability that they are keeping up academically. We've just moved our oldest child, who is in high school now, into a Catholic online school. So he's getting the faith there as well as the academics, and each kid needs something different. So whether we'll pursue that with the other kids. So.
But like faith is a big part
as
of
far as faith,
the curriculum that
Yeah.
you choose and the
every day
how the
begins
day's structured.
with prayer, and we read the mass readings for the day. If we don't go to mass, sometimes we go to mass. We have the opportunity to pray the rosary throughout the day. Just praying at the mealtime, praying with my husband, or like I said, we listen sometimes to, Fulton Sheen. That's part of my son's religion curriculum. Is he listens to a Fulton Sheen. They're studying the Baltimore Catechism. They're studying My Catholic Faith book.
And so like, you're just able to supplement so many from so many different angles too.
And celebrating feast days, like we with the littler kids, we did a thing on around the Feast of the Archangels. We'll do something for St. Joseph's Day. So again, if they were in school, and maybe even in a Catholic school, we couldn't like devote a lot of time focusing on solemnities or things like that. So that's definitely part of each day is religion and how our faith looks at through a lens, through the lens of faith. So.
I think I was going to say the other thing we like to do are just trying to instill in them a lifelong love of learning, and so we'll often find them reading a book that we probably couldn't force them to read, or you leave it around for them in the hopes that they'll see it, and then you can have a discussion about it afterwards. Like they'll just pick up. I'm trying to think of. Sometimes we'll leave the remnant newspaper.
They're reading a remnant.
They're reading a remnant. Yeah, just it offers a lot of points of discussion too. Yeah. Just out that you wouldn't have in a normal classroom setting. So
well, I think the one approach that if any homeschoolers watch this is called Charlotte Mason, and really one of the tenets of that teaching approach is finding beauty in reading good and beautiful literature, looking at good and beautiful artwork and music, and so when you compare that with maybe some of the materials that are being used in school, like sometimes I ask parents of peers that are like public school, like, what's your kid reading? And I get like, Junie B. Jones. And I'm like, okay, well, my 8-year-old
they have no idea.
Yeah. Or they,
for me, I'd say nothing. Video games.
So my 7-year-old is reading like a great illustrated Catholic or classic of Count of Monte Cristo. So it's like, and he's read some other like classics. So, and that's what they're drawn to, and good quality material. And
so it's more of an openness to education, because education isn't just what you learn in the schools, and that's what, like for me, I didn't realize that until I was like in my mid-20s. When I was watching documentaries, and I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, well, I could read books about this too, and I haven't read a book for I don't know how many years. So it's one of those things that's fostering the, I guess the love of learning.
Sure. And making like decisions like, is this really something that's like going to be fruitful if I study it or not? And I think they're already
hopefully
picking up.
Discerning.
We talked about sheltering, and what are public schools trying to do now? They're trying to get everyone to stay home. And so how's that any different than homeschooling?
Or stay in your little glass cubicle wearing 10 masks. And
Well,
not...
yeah, even more, they're discouraging socialization. Public schools are discouraging socialization, so don't use that as an excuse not to homeschool your kids. Thank you, Marianne and
Yeah, right.
Andrew, for
Thank you.
appearing on the
Thank you,
show.
Brian.
Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity,
And we will not be silent.